and upper surface of the flange. Don't allow any buildup inside. It will alter the volume and void the test results. The cover for the base also must have a smooth, clean outer rim and flange surface. When clamped together, the base and cover have to be pressure tight. Contained in the cover is the air receiver. Attached to the receiver is the main air valve. There's a hand pump for building up pressure. Water is added through a funnel and tube. The valves and petcocks are for adding and draining water and for releasing pressure from the air meter. And the air gauge shows the air content of the concrete to the nearest 0.1%. For calibrating the white air meter, you'll need a flask, a graduated cylinder, some water, paper to record your results, and of course the air meter. Okay, now let's see how the white air meter is operated to test for air content. First, wet the inside of the base and the gasket side of the cover. This will keep the concrete from drying to the air meter. Then here's what you have to do. Put the concrete in the base until it's 1/3 full. Rod the layer 25 times, following a spiral pattern toward the center. Tap the outside of the base 15 times with the mallet to close the voids left by the tamping rod. Repeat the procedure of filling, rodding 25 times and tapping 15 times for the second and third layers. After tapping the base for the third layer, strike off the excess concrete using a sawing motion. Then wipe the flange clean to ensure a tight seal between the cover and base. Okay, now clamp on the cover. Close the main air valve and open both petcocks. Then add water through the funnel until water comes out of the petcock in the center of the cover. The meter may be tilted and rotated several times to help free any air bubbles clinging to its sides. Tapping the base a few times may help too. When air bubbles no longer come out through the center petcock, close both petcocks. Now close the air bleeder valve in the end of the air receiver and gently pump air into the receiver until the hand on the gauge comes to the vicinity of the red line. A little to one side or the other will make no difference as long as the hand goes past the starting point. Then tap the gauge gently with one hand, and at the same time just barely open the bleeder valve in the air receiver until the hand rests exactly on the starting point. Then quickly close the bleeder valve. Now open the main air valve between the air receiver and the base of the meter. And tap the gauge gently until the hand comes to rest. This reading is the air content of the concrete. Now all you have to do is release the pressure by opening one petcock. Then open the clamps and remove the top. Be sure to dump the concrete immediately. And then clean all the parts and allow them to dry. Okay, that's how the white air meter should be operated. But now let's look at how it's calibrated. Calibration checks the accuracy of the air content gauge. So it's a good idea to calibrate the air meter at the start of each job and at least weekly from then on. Here's what you should do to calibrate the air meter. First, pump some air into the air receiver and then open the main air valve. The gauge hand should come to rest against the peg on the face of the gauge. If it doesn't, there's no need to continue with the calibration. Send the meter to the district office so it can be checked out and repaired. Okay, the meter is fine, so close the main air valve, fill the base of the meter with water, right to the top of the flange. Then place the cover on the base and close the 4 clamps. Pump air into the receiver until the gauge hand comes into the area of the red line. Now slightly open the bleeder valve. When the gauge hand comes to rest on the initial starting point, close the bleeder valve. Now close both petcocks and open the main air valve. When the hand on the gauge comes to rest, close the main air valve, record the reading. Now open the center petcock slowly to release air pressure and to ensure no water loss. Open the petcock under the funnel and pour out a volume of water equal to 1% of the volume of the base. Here's an easy way to do it. The volume of the base of the air meter is normally 7,100 milliliters. 1% of that volume is 71 milliliters. By using the graduations on the graduated cylinders, you can easily measure the amount of water to pour out of the air meter. Okay, pour some water first into a flask. Then pour the water in the flask into the graduated cylinder until the water level in the cylinder reaches the 71 milliliter mark. Any remaining water must be poured back into the air meter. Now you're ready to determine the new volume of air in the air meter. It should be 1% plus the initial reading on the gauge from the initial run. Continue pouring water out of the air meter in 1% increments and running air content tests of the remaining volumes until at least 8% of the volume of water in the air meter has been removed. When you've completed the checks, review your recorded air contents. Check each of the readings against the theoretical readings. The theoretical reading at any point is the initial reading plus the percent of water removed from the meter at that point. If at any time the actual reading varies from the theoretical reading by more than plus or minus 0.2%, return the meter to the district office for further inspection and repair. On this calibration check, the meter checks out okay. All readings equal the theoretical readings. And that's how the white air meter is used and calibrated to determine the air content of concrete. But just a few more points before I finish. No test is valid unless it's performed correctly, in the same way each time, using properly calibrated equipment in good condition. Run the test correctly, consistently, and accurately. Calibrate the meter properly and often enough. Use the equipment carefully without damaging it and keep it clean. If you don't, you can't be sure of the test results. Air content should be recorded on the delivery ticket and DOT Form 319. Be neat, complete, and accurate in your documentation. And finally, inspector actions. What to do when air contents don't comply with specifications. First, be sure you know the requirements. Check the concrete design and the specifications if you are unsure. When a test result is out of specification, run another test. In fact, anytime you see or suspect something unusual, run a check test. Inspecting and testing the quality of Portland cement concrete is a big responsibility, so give it your best effort. This completes Part 3, the final program of the series on concrete sampling and testing.